I'm just doing a part 2 to the last video. It cut out because my memory's full. So yeah, no, I was just explaining. So basically, I was just speaking about this story, and so basically, he's walking away from me. The duty manager of Tesco, but before he walked away, he said to me, as I said, he said, "You need come back when you're calm, and I'll speak to you then." I said, I'm speaking to you calmly now. I've calmed down, but I am fuming angry." I said, am I not speaking to you calmly now?" And I was speaking at that tone. That's how I was speaking. I said, "I'm speaking to you calmly." I was speaking at that tone of voice. And I just stood there with my arms down like this. He said, "Well, you're not, you're angry." I said, "Look at me. This is not calm." See, it reminds me of that girl, that narcissistic girl who said to Charlie Kirk, "You are not allowing me to speak. You are interrupting me." And Charlie is going like this. That's exactly what I was doing with this duty manager, who was acting like he even looked like a little boy. He looked about 15, but he was acting like a little boy. As I said, it reminds me of that Charlie Kirk interaction with that girl who said, "You're not letting me speak. You keep talking over me." And Charlie's going like this. That's exactly what I was doing with this duty manager earlier this evening. And then he walks away from me. I said, "I'm speaking to you calmly. You're just," I said, "So no one here is going to do anything." I said, "I'm asking to speak to your superior manager. Come back here when you're calmer." I said, I was speechless. But obviously I was fuming, angry. So I'm asking to speak to his superior because this boy who just can't handle a normal conversation is walking away from me. The girl on customer service isn't doing it. The security guard said to me, "Come back tomorrow." I said, "But who there will help me?" I was just given a customer services number to ring. So I had walked all that way. Just to reiterate, if you are watching this video and you haven't seen the last video, just to reiterate, I'm illegally homeless. I need to report another law firm and the previous law firm. I have a landlady who should be in prison. I'm illegally homeless. I could take legal action. I could sue the police, the council, and now my GP practice. I'm on severe disability. I've got no home and no GP practice. The level of corruption, a letter to the House of Commons, has been ignored. I even told this duty manager that as well. I have been refused as a customer a sleep aid, and I am desperate for sleep. And I would also like to add that I felt the need to leave Tesco quite promptly because I was afraid that I might be arrested. I've already been threatened with being a political prisoner because I refused to call my sister a man, and I'm on severe disability. I've got it in writing from a Dr. Webborn that I lost a lot of blood last year when the landlady illegally locked me out and I had to go into A&E to get an iron infusion. I've been self-funding hotels. My money's running out. I didn't even say that I was suicidal. All I said was that these herbal pills that you can buy in a bulk I'd taken more than one of them because they're not enough to knock me out. And these are the one a night herbal tablets. One a night NYTOL herbal tablets. You can buy them in bulk. As it was, they were only willing to sell me one packet. I'm a grown adult. I'd already said to the man on the desk at Tesco pharmacy, I'd said, when he said to me, do not take more than 2 of the 25 milligram tablets, I'd already said, no, I won't do that. I thank you for your advice. I'll have just one box because you're not allowed to sell me more than one. But because I made this comment about a flyaway comment that I've taken more than one herbal pill, this obnoxious pharmacist comes out from the desk, his body language, and I am not exaggerating, I'm not going to sell them to you. I say, why? You can't just say to a customer, accuse a customer of attempting, because that could actually be seen as something slanderous. Well, not slanderous, no, not, but it wasn't a concern for me. You can't just say to a customer, I'm not going to sell you this product because I think that you will overdose on it. Like I said, I didn't say I was suicidal. I just said that I need something to knock me out. I need to sleep, and I suffer with insomnia. And I'd walked all that way in the rain. I suffer with insomnia. I'd been I get up in the middle of the night. I'm up and down, up and down, up and down. I had a horrific nightmare. I didn't even tell them about that nightmare. Because you don't. One doesn't, does one? It was a very, very gory, frightening, disturbing nightmare. And this is all because of the stress and the corruption, and now a GP practice that I could sue for not following guidelines and for being willfully medically negligent to someone on severe disability. And I just told the duty manager, this silly boy, that our local MP has even ignored a letter to the House of Commons. Like I said, I've never had a problem with Eastbourne Tesco before, but there's some good news in this. Apart from the fact that I managed to go somewhere else to get them, and also I could go somewhere else tomorrow to get another packet of them. You see how ridiculous this is. So, bearing in mind, I go into Tesco, Lockbridge Drive, Eastbourne. I go in there practically every other night. I often chat to staff in there. The ex-manager of Poundland told me a horror story about the ex-manager of Poundland now works in Tesco. He does night shifts, and he once told me a horror story about how the notorious PC Scott Franklin Lester Senior had along with some other thugs held his wife against a shop window, accusing her of shoplifting. And his 3-year-old daughter was traumatized for life. She was screaming and crying watching this. So that's and the reason why he stopped working in Poundland, because he was the manager of Poundland, was because he couldn't deal with all the demented people. There are obviously things that happen in Poundland that I'm not aware of. Thankfully, I haven't seen those things happen in Poundland, but I've seen them happen elsewhere in Eastbourne, obviously, because I can take action against Warming Up the Homeless charity. But anyway, I'm not going to go into all of that because I've got to be careful what I say. But this manager assumed that I was just going to be on my way, that I'd come all that way just for that. I said, I've come in here to buy something else as well, thank you very much. And he just walked off. He said, come back and do your shopping another day when you've calmed down. How dare he speak to me like that? That little boy, duty manager, needs a bloody smack on the bottom. And before you say I'm using violence, I'm using, it's satire, it's humor, you know, that thing that we used to have in this country. Yeah, he needs to be reprimanded and put on over someone's knee. Um, uh, but I went and spoke to an older a female employee in there about what had just happened, and I said how I often go in there and I've never had a problem in Tesco before. I've had the odd grumpy person over the years here and there who's, one or two rude people with that comes with the territory. But I was fuming angry, and she was so apologetic, this older employee at Tesco. She was so apologetic, and I said, I just can't believe it. The way the manager spoke to me. And I even said to her that I was afraid that he might call the police. And I said, they will arrest you for anything. I said, we're living in very frightening times. I didn't tell her what what Eastbourne police have done to me, over threatening me. I didn't say about the threat of being a political prisoner and all of that. I don't think I told her about, oh, I think I did. I told her that I had a landlady in contempt of court and that the MP is failing me and all of that. Because I even went up to Councillor Stephen Holt a few years ago when I was being attacked at Belmore Road, and he had this massive mouth mask. It was like something out of Alien, covering his entire face. This mouth mask that came up to here. Don't talk to me. Don't. There's a person. And he was treating me like I was chasing him round Tesco. It was just like with that weird Irish woman who was protecting Kelly J. Keane. She's already dealt with people at Scotland Yard and turning nasty. There is a woke mind virus. There's a mental illness going on everywhere. Everyone's going crazy. But anyway, and I want to say this because I want to make a point that there are good people. Because while I was speaking to this very nice female employee, it's like being in a playground. There'd obviously been some sort of chitter chatter. Oh, there's this woman. She's gotten very angry. She comes in here all the time. You can imagine that sort of scenario. But this very nice young man, employee, came up to me while I was speaking to the older lady who was apologetic. I went to go and buy some Lucozade, ironically. I hadn't been. They're not selling me sleepies, so I'm. They're not selling me a sleep aid, so I made the dark joke that I was going to go and pick up some Lucozade. I was in the aisle where the Lucozade is. And for anyone who's not from the UK, or I don't know if Lucozade is American or British or what, but it's a high caffeine energy drink. And this very nice man came up to me, and he held my hand. Young man, not older, young man, probably younger than me. And he cupped my hand. He sort of took my hand like that. Maybe he's a believer. And I was telling him what happened, and he said it's totally understandable that you're angry. He said, of course you're angry. I said, thank goodness you're a human. He said, well, we're not all robots. I said, thank goodness. And he got his phone out and he was helping me to find somewhere else that would serve me a sleep aid. I said to him, I just want to sleep. And I told him what I was going through, how I was illegally homeless, I'm fighting corruption. I said I could sue the police, the GP practice, because I said now this involves the GP practice. It's like a disease. It's narcissism. I said the local MP has lied to me. The local MP caseworker, Josh, the MP, has ignored a letter to the House of Commons. I've got a landlady that should be in prison. I said the law firm, now the GP practice. So I said I've got no home, no GP practice, and you're despicable, disgusting. I said I will never go to the pharmacy here again. I'd never spoken to their pharmacist at Tesco before. That was disgusting, that was. And this really nice man, this young man, he said, where are you from? Do you need to drive? He said, the boots at the Crumbles. I said, oh yeah, they used to be 24 hours. I said, but they're now midnight. I said, I think they're only open till 8 o'clock now though. So I said, I will have missed them. He said, well, according to my phone, they're open till 10 o'clock. I said, do you know something? Thank you so much. You're doing what that silly boy could have done for me, and he's the manager. I said, thank you so much. He said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Seaford. I said, I grew up in Seaford. I said, do you know something? Since moving to Eastbourne, since my late mother died, since I went into this crooked system that was meant to support me, my late mother sold the house and I went into this satanic system. I didn't say that bit, but I said, it's only since moving to Eastbourne that I've had to deal with all these rude and demented people. And he said, yeah, that sounds about right. I said, thank you so much. So that employee, and I've remembered his name, I'm not going to say his name and I'm not going to describe him, but I will pass on a compliment about that individual. He helped me. The pharmacist and the duty manager could have pushed me over the edge to suicide. I was served at Boots tonight. He got it. He cupped my hand. He came to me. He's probably a believer. And may Abba Yahweh bless him, Baruch him for that. That's the Hebrew word for bless. So, and I will, on that note, I found a pound coin. I know technically speaking, only technically, not legally, if you find money in a shop, it's supposed to belong to the shop, but this is a corporate entity. The Tesco CEO, they make millions, and the way they've treated me tonight, I found this pound coin on the floor before I was served by that despicable, disgusting pharmacist. Well, he didn't serve me, did he? He refused to. He accused me without knowing my mental state. He falsely accused me that I might possibly take an overdose. I mean, how pathetic. I'm 43, I'm a grown adult. That is no different to saying to a customer in Tesco, I'm not going to serve you this meat because if you eat too much of this meat or this product, it will make you ill, it will make you fat, and I think that you will overdose on it. I mean, where does it begin and end? So, like I said, I could even buy another packet of this somewhere else. I could go into Boots in town and buy another packet. But even then, it's not going to knock me out because it's not strong enough. Because even ZOPICLONE These useless GPs, they only give you a few ZOPICLONE, and even then I wasn't sleeping in the Strand Hotel, that hotel that's on GB News for illegal immigrants, where I was abused by a thug on the desk. I've spent thousands of pounds on these hotels. I have a landlady in contempt of court who should be in prison. And Dr. Caro didn't even want to give me ZOPICLONE. They say, oh, it's addictive. Even that doesn't knock me out. But this is something you can buy over the counter. And the pharmacist said, oh, I'm not going to serve her in case she overdoses. And his words to me, and I'm not exaggerating, this was his body language. He said, I don't care. Those were his exact words to me. I don't care. I know you don't care. How dare you treat a customer like that? You do not care about that customer's illegal homelessness, a GP practice that she could sue, willful medical negligence. I lost blood last year. I've got it in writing from Dr. Webborn that if I get heart palpitations, it could be life-threatening. And that was just 3 weeks after the landlady illegally locked me out. In July of last year, the same month that landlady locked me out, I was so severely anemic from the stress that I had to go into A&E and get an iron infusion, and I've got it in writing. I could sue the pants off these. And now Josh BABARINDE, my local MP, who doesn't care that I've been threatened with prison for my human rights, Article 10 of the Human Rights Act, refusing to call my sister a man. He's not serving me as a constituent. He doesn't care if I've been a political prisoner, a landlady that should be in prison. All for and tonight, just a sleep aid. So I went all the way to Boots. I spoke to a couple of people who were being served. The kiosk was thankfully open. The out of hours pharmacy. It was open till 10 o'clock, and thank goodness I managed to get this. And the other ladies that I was speaking to, one of them was in her dressing gown. She said, oh, just be careful what you say. Just don't repeat what you said in case he gets funny with you. I said, no. I said, this is where my honesty is used against me. And one of the ladies said, well, it's not a bad thing to be honest. But no, but this is what my honesty gets me. And Abu Yahweh, though, he's noting, he's making record of every spoken word and every action. It does not go unseen. So in the Shalmayim, that's the Hebrew word for heaven. We will be judged at the final judgment. But like I said in the last video, Randy from Yahweh's Restoration Ministry, Darren, my partner's had contact with him. And Randy, who is one of the ministers at YRM in St. Louis, Missouri. I watched him on YouTube, and he's made a video about because yesterday when this incident happened, it was meant to be the rapture, and he was saying, no, the temple needs to be built in Jerusalem. Not even Yeshua, not even the angels in heaven, in Shalmayim. No one knows the day or the hour. So if the angels in heaven, so don't watch those videos that tell you when the rapture harpazo will be. That's the Greek or the Hebrew word for rapture. By the way, in my last video about Charlie Kirk, I said, as much, I've gone into all the horrific things about the revelations about his wife doing the satanic Baphomet hand gesture. But Charlie wasn't right about everything. Of course, we're not right about everything, but I was quite surprised that he said Abba is not the Hebrew word for father, and it definitely is. And I'm the one that's supposed to be learning, so But anyway, no. But anyway, I've done a very long, nearly 3 hour video talking about Charlie Kirk, um, things in my family, uh, the strongholds we bear, um, the curses of our forefathers, the strongholds, and generational curses and all that sort of thing in the family and everything. And obviously the revelations of Charlie Kirk and his wife and the psyops thing, but just got to be very wary, keep away from, just stay, keep in the word, the scripture, the straight and narrow path. Look up, pray for that hedge of protection, and just be really wary, because everything is a distraction right now, everything. But I got my sleep aid tonight thanks to that very nice young man. I would not. I walked all the way from the seafront to Tesco to Asda, which I'm used to doing, by the way. But no one should have to go through that. And also the staff in Asda, there are two lovely, lovely ladies in there. I haven't been to Asda for ages, and I told them what had happened. And one of the ladies, Joanna, she was on my side. She said, she said the other lady asked how I am. I haven't, because I haven't been to Asda for ages. One of one of these ladies, they're so lovely in Asda. I might make more of a point. Asda is cheaper anyway. I know it's owned by Walmart in America. Asda is owned by Walmart. It's, the cheap stuff, yeah. And they've got nice, I think they've probably got nicer things in Asda than they have in Walmart. Because I've seen Angry Grandma go in there and it's mostly tats in Walmart. But I think it's probably a much bigger version, a jumbo version of, probably like a Mammoth store, the old Mammoth stores. Not that I ever went to a Mammoth store, but anyway, I love those big bulk places. I've got OCD, don't forget. Um, anyway, but I went to Asda, got some extra bits, some food, um, and I just want to say that one of those lovely ladies, I was one time I didn't have, for whatever reason. It was a strange situation because I've always got money on me, but I didn't have enough money on me. I think I'd gone out with just cash, which is not like me. It was something like that, but I didn't have. I was like about £2 short, a couple of quid. And this lovely lady, I said, "Oh, can you take something off, because I haven't. It's right, really, I'm really embarrassed. I've gone a couple of quid over." And the lovely lady said, "Oh, wait there a minute." And she spoke to one of her colleagues, and he said, "Oh, I got a couple of quid." I said, "No, no, 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 I can't take money from you. Nah, it's all right." I said, "No, no, 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 I don't. I'm the kind of lady who won't let a man buy a cup of tea for me, even though I should let men do that, because that is chivalry, and that is custom. It's customary to let a man do that for a lady. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're from. A lady should always let a man do that. But I'm funny like that. But I thought, how kind. This is money out of their own pocket. And this was, I think this was last year, I think, or something. And I said, "No, I will definitely pay you back." "No, don't be silly." "No," I said, "please, I will. I will." "Well, if you want to, but we don't expect you to." Yeah. I said, "Well," and I did. I made sure that next time I went to Asda, I had I gave them that couple of quid back. I'm a lady of my word, and what you see is what you get with me. But like I said, sometimes my honesty is working against me, and that's why there are things I can't say on my YouTube channel, but I'm having to take drastic action because more things have happened, more, and the enemy is trying to work against me. And Yeshua, somewhere in the Bible, I don't know where, Yeshua said, he warned us not to give too much information. We're not supposed to say all these things about ourselves. You see, what's happened is, since this mental breakdown, since all this evil, I've opened myself up like a book, documenting things. And for whatever reason, because when I set up the YouTube channel, this was before I was attacked at 12 Belmore Road. And I'm a technophobe, I'm an amateur. So much so that my very first YouTube video had no sound on it. I was speaking for about 2 or 3 hours, live streaming with no sound. So that was my very first YouTube video. And then this targeting, I think I was so ill that the police had really assaulted me on Beachy Head. Like I said, there are some very serious issues with my partner who needs, and Warrior Wales, like I said in my last video, it's not normal. Why is my partner acting weird? Why did he have his door on the chain? It's just as abusive as him assaulting me when I knocked on his door and he trapped my foot in the door and assaulted me for no reason. He's now suddenly got a chain on the door. A chain. As if I'm some dangerous person. But I'm having to resort to drastic measures now. And I can't say what has happened regarding this landlady and the law firm. But 3 months ago, they are supposed to have got the casework from this corrupt solicitor. Marion has been the lady who exposed Mr. Holden on YouTube. She's been sectioned just like in the same way that John Patterson of the Royal Commission, who I met in Eastbourne Psychiatric Unit when I was going through all this insanity and all this stuff, which I go into detail on my last video. But yeah, I've got to be very careful what I say now, because there are people who are watching me from Eastbourne Borough Council. Josh BABARINDE knew about my YouTube channel when he was councillor OBE, and he ignored my online application and he made out he was a victim of my YouTube channel. And he wouldn't answer my question when I said, "How do you know about my YouTube channel?" And he just looked at me. So it's this typical narcissism. It's hiding behind whatever. So all the lies, there's only one thing that is consistent, and that's the lies and the failings. Ignoring emails, ignoring voice messages, saying 3 times you and Morrison intervened with Mr. Holden. And then I saw that YouTube video of Marion, the retired fraud investigator, saying that he's got 16 pages of corruption against him, including sexual harassment. Just look up the video, illegal eviction scam in Bexhill. And, you know, these people are exposing the corruption. And this amazing elderly woman who's a retired fraud investigator, she's been targeted just like me. Anyone who has anything to do with them, bad things start happening to them. Typical targeted individual syndrome. This is what we go through as chosen / set apart ones. Anyone who exposes, whistleblowers, whatever. But I'm just trying to survive. And this elderly woman, she'd had a fall. Oh, it's just, they were terrorized. It's terrorism. It's state terrorism. That's what it is. So that's where I'm at. Like I said, there's something else has happened, but I can't say what it is. But it involves the director of this new law firm that's taken over from Mr. Holden, and they haven't even got the casework from him from 3 months ago. So if anyone wants to suggest anything, Paul, Warrior Wales, if you know anything. Like I said in my last video, I bumped into Alan, who said he's one of the most well-connected people in Sussex. He knows all these lords and ladies. Alan, whose father was a high-level Freemason and an interceptor who tried to stop Peter Townsend from marrying Princess Margaret. That Alan. I saw him, was it yesterday, the day before, Monday, I think it was. And I walked up to him. I said, Alan, do you know what's been done to me now? The police beating me, threatening me with prison because I refused to call my sister a man. Josh has ignored a letter to the House of Commons. He said, well, there's a lot going on in Eastbourne. There's a lot going on everywhere. He said, we'll come to the cafe to have a chat. So there's a chat cafe where people chat. I said, I don't just want to chat. I don't want to just talk about things. I need action. I went to the Eastbourne People's Assembly. I kept my mouth shut. And when I opened my mouth, Darren's friend Charlie started bullying me. This was years ago. The dirty old man joined in. The autistic woman started screaming at me. And Charlie is the one who wrote the letter to the House of Commons saying I've been failed. So, yeah, so Darren's friends, like I said, Gurmit, and look, I'm now having to take things to another level because of, if Darren can't be honest with me, this emotional abuse is serious. Darren's friend Eben and Gurmit, and they're supposed to be Christians, and Juliet, who apparently died of cancer, did all these lies. My email to the former MP, so I'm having to take things to a whole new level. I'm going to have to send these emails, and that's it, because there's only so much I can do. Right, I've got to get off here because I've got a viewing for a flat tomorrow, and there are a lot of people, short supply, high demand, and I'm frightened. I've been watching videos of Paul Joseph Watson, Paul Thorpe. It's very frightening what's going on out there, not just in the UK, but in Europe. I'm not going to make a video about the 13th of September. You can see in my last video towards the end. It's very funny. Yeah, nearly 3 million people. If you want to see my very long video about that. Yeah, yeah, so but I just want to say, like I said, that was the first time I've ever held an English flag, even though it's pagan, satanic symbol on it, the Red Cross. It's the first time I've ever, as an English person, held or even touched an English flag, and it felt wonderful to be with all those working class men. Kiss Thomas away. Now, as a woman of Yahweh, I can't physically say those words, so I'm sort of being pulled in different directions because I'm thinking, Kiss Thomas. I can't say the word. But if Darren was here, I'd be chanting it to his face. And so I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because, as Darren said, words have power. And the words you use in your environment, your immediate environment. But then, of course, we've been watching. I don't want to watch Angry Grandma without him because it's not funny unless he's with me. But oh my gosh, that elderly woman. Only she can get away with that awful cussing. I can't even say the word that she used. Mother and the F word. And this is an elderly woman in her 80s. Oh, we shouldn't even be watching things like that, by the way. Um, but the pranks that her grandson pulls on her are funny. And I, oh dear, I'm being pulled between two different. But anyway, talking of English flags, it was really good to walk. I was walking on the way to Asda to get these Asda and Boots at the Crumbles. By the way, that's the cinema, the Crumbles cinema that's no longer there. That's where I saw Jurassic Park in 1993. My mother went on to do a scene with Sam Neill in Wimbledon. I just thought I might throw that one in there. I also saw Mrs. Doubtfire at that cinema. I remember my mother saying to me, I'm just a bit concerned that you might get upset seeing a movie about a man who really wants to see his children, who will do anything to see his children. Because my father, well, it's a bit weird because my father saw me on the last time I saw my father was my 12th birthday. Don't you think it's a bit strange that my eldest sister chased him away on my 12th birthday? And I was in tears. And yet my sisters have illegally gone through my father's things without me, according to the Swan Advocate. Remember this, because if this is the last video I ever make, because I've actually got evidence of my father on Facebook asking if I want to see him. And the last time I saw Tanya, I was with Darren and she said, he didn't want to see you. See, they're jealous of me. They're jealous of me, you see. But I just thought I might throw it in there. My mother's friend, Anne in New York, she's Italian American and she married into the mafia. She works for Jaguar and she's got a Cadillac. And Robin Williams used her workplace for Cadillac Man, the movie, and asked her if she wanted to be in the movie, and she didn't because she's shy, even though she's Italian American and she's got a gun in beside her bed and no nonsense. Yeah, they used her workplace for Cadillac Man, which was released the year we went over to see Anne in 1989. I just thought I'd say that because I've got memories of the Crumbles in Eastbourne, the cinema. So I saw Jurassic Park in 93, and then the year after that, 94, I saw Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah. And as I said, my mother and her American friend have got a claim to fame. Because I was like, my mother did a scene with Sam Neill in Wimbledon, and in 1988, 89, Anne met Robin Williams, and they used her workplace for Cadillac Man and asked her if, imagine a big Hollywood star coming to your workplace and saying, "We want to use your workplace for Cadillac Man," because she had a Cadillac, a 1989 Cadillac. I'm not a car person. And I was like, what's it like meeting Robin Williams? I didn't even know. As a child, I didn't know because I grew up as a child loving Robin Williams and imitating him at school. Nanu, nanu. Yeah, I know that's a Masonic hand gesture. And she was like, yes, he's just like how he was in. You go off on one, like the way I do. He had piercing blue eyes, and if I was, with my last video talking about astrology, I've got a bit of a stomach ache now, and it's probably because I'm talking about evil stuff. But um, I was so heavily into astrology. One of the things I talked about. I know that Robin Williams is on the cusp of Cancer Leo. Please forgive me, Abby, for saying this. And these things do sort of that's by the way, that's what Darren's on. Darren's birthday. He will hate me for saying this. No, Darren, I know Darren shares a birthday with Terence Stamp, who's in Superman. And astrology really, really affects me. It's one of those things that goes, I'm close to the cusp. The Pisces Aries cusp. And I mean, the last time I remember speaking, Anne came over not long before Mum died. She actually came to Eastbourne, Mum's American friend. And my ring, the ring that was in that flat, that supported flat at SDR Living, 21st birthday present from my late mother. It's over 100 years old. It's real gold. It's got my aquamarine birthstone in it, which is March, semi-precious. And my mother had my birthstone put in it. And I remember sitting in the back of the car with Anne. And Anne was like, "Oh, I'm Pisces, February." I said, "Oh, I didn't know that." And I said, "Well, your birthstone is the amethyst, and mine's aquamarine." And I showed her. I said, "Mum gave me this. It's over 100 years old. It's over 100 years old, and she's put my birthstone in it." And Anne was there with my mother in New York in the 50s, 60s. My mother had had an illegal abortion in 1958. She was taken to Pennsylvania by a cop, a New York cop, because Pennsylvania is near New York, isn't it? I don't know my geography. But Anne was in tears when Mum was talking to this priest about her illegal abortion. There's so much. Do you know what? Anne's condolence card to me was the only condolence card I got, apart from Robert's card, which said, "Make your mum proud." And Anne's card to me meant so much. It just said, "Your mother didn't want to leave you." Anyway, I'm feeling a bit sick now. All that for just that. Anyway, 5 o'clock in the morning. I've had a damn good rant, and I feel better for it. So that's that. Oh yeah, yeah. No. On the way to walking on the way to what's it called? Asda. It was good to see going past Pooh Castle. We call it Pooh Castle. They've done something about. I tell you what, Josh Babarinde, our local MP, has done one thing. According to the Herald, he's done something about the smell of Pooh Castle. The Southern Water. There's a thing, and for years it stunk of poo, sewage. It's a sewage thing, and the sewage goes out into the sea. It's disgusting. But I noticed how they've masked it with some sort of fabric conditioner smell. But yeah, so Josh Babarindi has got his priorities right. I mean, yes, no, that is terrible. The residents have been putting up with the smell of our shizer for so long. That So they've done something about Pooh Castle. But walking past Pooh Castle, it's really good to see English flags and Union Jacks. So I'll finish on that note. Oh yes, and a family of foxes. There are foxes around there, and seeing them walking past with something in their mouths. There's a group of them. Fantastic, Mr. Fox, our English foxes. Um, the other day I picked up two hedgehogs in one go that were close to each other on the way to the King's Drive garage. My eldest sister, I don't understand how she's never seen a hedgehog. I've made a stuffed hedgehog as a child. We kept them as pets. I found a teeny tiny baby one in daylight. I've picked up loads of hedgehogs, especially since I've been with Darren. I've picked up a load of toads, baby shrew, and other things. Can't remember. But well, I love my wildlife. I've seen badgers. I even had a fox come out near my feet when I was sleeping rough and going up to Beachy Head suicidal. When this, throughout the torture of the council, Abbey Yahweh has gifted me little moments. Anyway, I'm sharing something very beautiful, and I just hope someone that deserves it. But yeah, I walked all the way in just this, my jumper and shorts and flip flops, because I don't have my winter clothes, not to hand anyway. So this landlady's been in contempt of court for 13 months. And I will never go to that pharmacy again at Tesco. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that for now. Shalom,